All right, so welcome back to another game in my journey. If you haven't checked out the first three games of this journey, make sure to click out, watch those three games first. Spoilers ahead. Today we have No Jams and Matty Kleiss, their second game. Their first game was a bit of a wild ride. Probably going to be one of the better games of the tournament, a fight down to the end. And I have Hunter with me here today. Hunter, how's it going?
It's going all right. Have wrapped up my games. I'm not going to go too much into spoiling the results of them, but been having a lot of fun with the 1v1 tournament so far.
Now, in the 1v1 tournament, do you think that you have had a strategy that's different than how you've played in the past, something that you kind of emphasized?
Oh, completely. I mean, I feel like 1v1, it impacts almost every element with how I play my strategy. Not just because of the 1v1 nature of it, but also the rules we have. You know, in tournament, like, you know, you have to go up to 15 VP. You can go up to 9 cards in hand, and the friendly robbers turn on. So each of those elements, I think, really changes the way that you play a game. But at its core, the big thing about 1v1 for me is the fact that you are very much rewarded for focusing on beating your opponent. I think that in a 4-player or 3-player game, it's much harder to beat 2 or 3 opponents, and so I think you often focus more on achieving your game plan. And in 1v1, though, you're trying to the only thing you need to do is beat your opponent. So if you have a poor game, if your opponent has a more poor game, you'll win. And so there's not going to be trades and things like cutting off your opponent, preventing your opponent from getting certain resources. All that stuff went a lot into my strategy.
All right, so early on we got No Jams grabbing the 8-5-10. Makes a lot of sense. There's a good spread of resources. Comboing. Where do you think No Jam should be on their second placement? What would you be going if you played that 8-5-10?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in these 1v1 games, you're not going to trade. And 4-for-1ing is just, if you need to do it, you need to do it. But it's painful to have to rely on that to get your resource. So I really strongly believe you need to have access to at least the 4 settlement resources to start the game, or be super strong on your city resources. And so right here, going for that 9-5-10 spot for No Jams, going for raw production, the biggest worry I would have for No Jams here is there isn't sheep. And No Jams is I think going to really struggle, because No Jams is going to have to 4-for-1 to get their first settlement. They're going to have to 4-for-1 to get development cards. And that's just going to be tough. Even when they build that first settlement on that 3-for-1 port that they're building towards, that 2 sheep isn't going to really roll. And so that's the big concern I'd have for No Jams here is, I think it's really tempting to go for lots of resources, but I think that missing a crucial early game resource is going to be huge here. I mean, they're probably going to be hoping to city early to expand, but there's too many opportunities, I think, to really fall behind early. With looking at their competitor, though, has the same problem, if not worse, to start the game. I mean, Matty doesn't have any wheat, and so Matty's going to also have to 4-for-1 for wheat. I mean, once Matty builds that 4-8-3 spot down there, Matty's going to kind of be short at pretty well. And so looking at early on, I mean, these are the kinds of things I was thinking a lot with my early placement, is I never wanted to be missing a non-ore resource to start the game. And if I had to be in such a strong position that I didn't care about and I was okay for wanting to start the game, as long as my third settlement was well positioned to deal with that weakness. And I think Matty is positioned to kind of use that strong opening spot and shore up his weakness. But for No Jams, I mean, I'm concerned about that lack of sheep.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the good thing about Matty is he's at least immediately building to the 4-8-3,
Yeah.
and you're right there once you get it down. No Jams, I mean, you get in on the 2-5, but I guess you pick up the 3-1 port, and that's the thought there. Then you catch a couple 5s, and all of a sudden you're in it. You build the 2 cities, and you're bouncing up resources really fast, and maybe you could start expanding. My personal thing that I found in my 2 games that I have played so far is I liked to be able to control the road. I think having the ability to maneuver was so important, and being able to even beat your opponent to a spot and really shut down their game, it grew to be a very important way in how I played my second game.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the big early things I noticed in my first few games is the development card strategy is completely different in 1v1s, I think, or at least the way I played it. I think that, first of all, the utility of a knight changes a little bit, because the fact there's only, If you think about it, in a normal 4-player game, for every opportunity you have to roll a 7, your opponents have 3 opportunities to roll 7s. And so if you're in a position where you're strong, a disproportionate number of those might be coming your way. And so you're going to basically be losing the random Lux 7v7 war. In a 1v1, you're probably much more likely to roll a 7 for every 7 your opponent has. I can't think of the amount of times I used a knight or rolled a 7 in my games, and my opponent immediately rolled a 7 and moved it off. And also with that friendly robber on, until you get that first city or that first settlement, you're kind of protected from it too. And so I found that much less, I feel like the per person development card consumption in my games was much lower. Also, because you have that hand size limit of 9, it's much easier. And there's so many times in my games where I'd have 2 settlements down. I'd be like, well, I could buy a development card right now, but if I get a few lucky rolls, I can be able to get a city or be able to get a settlement on my next turn. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait and I'm going to do that. I found myself not really buying development cards as much. Getting largest army was not something that really was easy. And so, yeah, I agree. Like getting largest road, not just from the utility of winning the game, but that's also one of the ways you can get those 2 VPs to kind of close out the game. But I mean, no jams, gets down their settlement. I mean, huge for them, and they're going to need that 3-for-1 port to get their sheep. I mean, we saw they had to pay dearly for that first sheep, but they got it. And now the 5 being rolled here. Huh.
Yeah, and there's been 2 5s right away as soon as she got it down, so she's getting paid back right away.
And then early city.
Yep, right away.
Yeah, and it said this was the thing that I said earlier. Is like no jams, not gonna really have much wheat, but they're hoping they can maybe get some cities, and the dice rolls have definitely worked out in their favor, and a kind of quick early lead here for them.
Yeah, I mean that was a very pivotal time to get a settlement down for Matty Kleiss too, because if he doesn't get that down as soon as possible, he falls out pretty quickly, and then he immediately gets an 8 and a 6, which is a dev card if he really wants it. And frankly, the knight control, like you said, is very important. I think that he should pull the dev card here just to get a knight. And odds are you do get a knight because half of the dev cards in the deck are knights.
Yeah, if you can keep the robber on your opponent's spot early in the game, that's huge. I mean, for example, say he cut off the 5 ore, all of a sudden no jams can't get any ore, but no jams now getting a second settlement early, and this is something I really felt in my games was that because you have to get to 15 VP. I mean, 15 VP is I max out on cities on a couple of my games. Like, it is hard to get to 15 VP because you can run out of cities, because you can run out of settlements, because there's only so many VPs in the pile. And so it's really a longer game, and having tons of resources just can be so helpful.
Yeah, that's another one of my strategies was I was placing my starting settlements in places where I could really connect them and have the long continuous road to where I could get to 15, as where no jams right now would have to build all the way around the map to make the long continuous road and could be cut off pretty easily at any point.
Yeah, and I mean, no jams is in a position here where just starting to generate so many resources when their numbers get rolled. I mean, the 5 and the 10 just pay off so big, and like an 8 and a 5 in a row is a city, and their biggest problem is they don't really have sheep. But I mean, and I've been on record saying this before, like sheep is probably the least valuable resource if you're okay ignoring development cards. And I mean, we said No Jams has been able to do the trades to get the exact amount of sheep they need, and I mean, No Jams is starting to really separate themselves from Matty.
Yeah, and I think Matt really needs to get down either a city or a settlement this next turn, especially with 10 cards in hand. And right there it is. But before we saw a bit of a blunder when I said, pull the dev card, get the knight. He didn't pull it, and then he got a roll for numbers, and then next 7 lost half his cards. So in that sense, a good time to get rid of the cards and gain a little power. Even if you pull a road builder, it's beneficial. You pull you're plenty and you're halfway to a city. You pull the monopoly and you can pull cards away from your opponent. There's just so much. Dev cards become so much more important in a 2-man game.
Yeah, they definitely do. Like, especially the knights can be really beneficial. And sometimes I did find myself in my matches, if I had a dev card, not using them. or not, or have the ability to buy a dev card, choosing not to. But that was always because I look at my board and say, well, hey, if there's just one number that gets rolled, I will be able to city, or I will be able to settle. And so let me wait and let me see if I can maybe do it on the next turn. I think that there's sometimes utility for that, but it's thinking like losing out, discarding half your hand size can definitely be tough in these games. I mean, more resources is just huge, and yeah, no jams now. Gain largest road, building to that 2-6 spot, and that's an interesting position. I mean, both No Jams and Maddie going for that position. No Jams able to get that down. Now, No Jams doesn't really have a weakness outside of maybe only having that 10 brick, huh?
Yeah, there really is no weakness in No Jam spot, unless if you're talking about how dispersed that one city is off to the side. I mean, if Maddie could connect here, it's almost certain that No Jams is going to have a dead road, and Maddie could have 15 straight, which means that it can't be taken from him. I
Yeah,
think in this game, because you say, like, we got to get to 15, it becomes so much more important to have one long road as opposed to a segmented one. And being able to hold that road for 2 points is so big.
yeah. I ran into this. I mean, I had multiple moments where in my games where I either would run out of roads, run out of settlements, or run out of cities. I mean, you think about it. If you can max out on cities and settlements in these games, and like that's you need it because what it's you can get 5 cities. Is that right?
4 cities, 5
Yeah.
settlements,
So you
totaling
can't
13
win
points.
off cities and settlements by themselves.
Yep.
You
You
can't.
need the road or the knights, or you need 2 VPs. And so there's so many ways that you can get them, but at the same time, you pretty much got to hold the road or the knights to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, but right now though, it's No Jams has the roles have been No Jams' favor right here. Like opening it up, they have 2 more cities than their opponent, and then 2 settlements on top of that. That's just so many resources. And now we see Maddie blocking off the 5 or kind of sending it down. I do think but at this point it might be too little, too late. But you can see what Maddie has in store for us. The dice rolls might flip to their side. I mean, if you're looking at No Jams, the 8, 9, 5, 10. That's a lot there, but No Jam just keeps piling stuff on, and now that 10, the 8, giving so much wheat production to that port, but Maddie responds right back with a city.
I mean, I wouldn't count Matty out just yet. He needs 2 roads down, and he's tied at 8 roads. And then you build another one on top. All of a sudden, he steals the road back, and he pretty much has the lead because he's a knight away.
Yeah, and
So
he
you
could have a
can
knight in
really count him
hand.
out.
Yeah, and I
That
mean,
ability to connect is so important.
yeah, and I mean, in a position now where if Maddie claims largest army, it's No Jam's ability to take that back is almost impossible. And so if Maddie gets largest army here, pulls up to 8, steals back largest road, I mean, all of a sudden Maddie's at 10 and No James is at 9. And I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, Maddie is set up, the road isn't that far off. It's really just Maddie has to, I think, Maddie just has to hope that No Jams, can't really close this game out right now. But Maddie now with 14 cards in hand, I mean, this is the turn. This is the turn. If Maddie's gonna make a play here, he has to figure out a way to at least settle, but probably settle city or settle and threaten largest road is the kind of thing he needs to do with this many cards in hand. Okay, I assume Maddie is now looking into that road placement suggests looking to probably threaten for largest road. We'll see, but Maddie passing with 8 cards in hand, lots of ore in hand and sheep that he didn't use.
Yeah, I think that the road going that way is a bit of a. I personally don't agree with it. I think that he should have connected underneath. That way he could expand out to the left or upwards from his 6th city. Now that he goes up, he pretty much says, if I'm going to have a continuous road, it's going to be going downwards and back towards where I already am. So I kind of wish that he would have placed that road on the 9-11 as opposed to the 10-11.
Yeah, because now it's like if he builds towards that 11-3-6, like how do you go around? It's a little cumbersome, and that's the kind of stuff I think like. Maddie to win this game, I think needs to take largest road from No Jams. Not only is it just gonna, because I think Maddie's just behind on settlements and cities, and I don't necessarily think that's going to change, over the course of the game. And so even though Maddie has the largest army now, which is great, I mean, No Jams is still potentially only 2 VP away from winning this game.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I've been very impressed with these two matchups between the two. I mean, we had a shot for shot haymaker blow down to the last roll last game, and now we're 11 points shown and 10 points shown, and I mean, it's a road change away from being another 15-14 game.
Yeah, and I mean, for a moment there, Maddie was down like 8 VP, like or 10 VP to 4 or something like that, or 9 VP to 4, and it looked pretty tough. But No Jams has kind of stalled out here a little bit, and Maddie's been able to stick into here, and Maddie now with deploying another knight.
Yeah, and personally, I mean, from my standpoint, if Maddie wins this game, I clinch a playoff spot. So I would love to see the rolls start going his way. Maybe throw me a 9 and 11, 4 roads, take the road back, and start expanding right away and get out there. And that's pretty much the one way I see it: 9, 11, any order, and we get going.
Yes, now No Jams secure another settlement. And yeah, kind of blocking off that like down road opportunity from Maddie to kind of extend largest road. However, now both competitors have kind of set themselves up in a point where neither of their roads are going to be maximally efficient. So Maddie's still only 3 roads away from taking back largest road, and I feel like Maddie, No Jams has not used their VP. Interesting choice here from Maddie. I guess you can, he's just thinking you can build off that that city down below. Taking longest road now takes 12. I think that was important. I think that No Jams didn't use any of their development cards as a knight when they could have. So No Jams does not have a knight in hand, I would believe, and so this could be 2 VPs.
Yeah, and I think that was just a very defensive move. No Jams could have been sitting on 14, likely to be sitting on 14 with that road, because they haven't touched their dev cards at all. So at this point, we're on victory watch, where settlement gets down, it's over.
Yeah, I think that if you had a year of plenty or you had a road builder, I think there have been great opportunities to use them for No Jams, probably, especially the amount of cards they have in hand. And so I put my money on No Jams having 2 VPs in hand right now. And Maddie now passing their turn. No Jams could potentially be winning this game. Taking, looks like they're maybe going for a city here.
Yeah, passing it looks like they're setting up with the city.
And Maddie
turn
up to 13 in hand. I mean, I feel like Maddie, you have to try to take back longest road here. You know that No Jams is going for that city.
Yeah, you got to build a road and at least force No Jams to waste cards. You got to prolong it as much as you can until you can make a major turn to get to either the 15 road mark, which again, I don't know how I feel about going that way, because now you're building right into each other and it becomes a very big issue.
Yeah, and No Jams has that ability to keep building their side, and so Maddie now is fairly hemmed in, can only really add 4 roads total to their pile, but I guess they're trying to go for that 3-for-1 port at this point. All right, No Jams with that city, and expand on their road here. I mean, yep, and wins the game. Yeah, I said had 2 VPs in hand. Just need to hold on to that largest road. And Maddie now, pass with 10 cards and or 8 cards or so in hand. But great game from No Jams. So you have to still play your games, huh?
Yeah, I guess we still got to see. I still got to win. Good thing for me. First tiebreaker is victory points against. And Maddie gave up 29 victory points. I only gave up 19, and I was already ahead of No Jams by 3 points by how I scored against her. So pretty much if I take one of the two, then I should be good to make my spot.
Yeah, but great game from No Jams. Maddie put up a tough fight, but No Jams' early advantage just snowballed too much. Had so many more resources. So good games to them. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And if you guys like our videos, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell to know when we post. We'll see you in the next one.
All right, take care.